back to the channel, Coding at Home, Season 2, Episode 2, continuing on with the crafting system. If you haven't seen previous episodes, go back and watch them. Of course, if you want to just download the full project, it's on my Patreon. I'll leave a link in the description. You'll need to be tier 2 to get all the projects. It's about £5 a month. Nothing crazy. Obviously, when the full package is finished, it will be going on the marketplace for a much, much higher price because it's going to be a full game template for survival, and then of course there will be the multiplayer upgrade to it as well, but that's in the future. For now, we're continuing on with how to build the crafting system. So here we go. We was in here. I'll minimize this so I can see what we are doing. So let's see. Now that we have finished the crafting component, let's just double check in the event graph, is there anything we need to add? Yes. So in the begin play, we want to delete it, okay, because for the purpose of referencing a crafting item, you don't want this to not know what this is. So if you did this on begin play, it'll not have this reference yet, unless you had a delay and then you have to fuck about. So what we're going to do, we're going to make a custom event called init or start or custom begin play. It doesn't matter. I like init, short for initiate, and then we can say, is this valid? Okay, now if this is valid, I want you to run the function to generate the slots, and I want you to update the crafting slots, and I want you to actually drag off of here and put a print string and say your crafting component has no ref to the inventory component. Just so you know, take the J out of it, I mistyped. Okay, always put them there so you know where to look and where your problem is. Okay, so now that that is set, you can go to your inventory component and then you can set the crafting component to self. Okay, now I do think that is everything in the crafting component finished. So we can save, we can close out of that. Now let's go to a BP master pickup. Let's do that one. Let's get the blueprints finished. So BP master pickup, what is going on in here? So I don't think there's anything to change in here. Construction script, right? So I have set up a slightly better system for the construction script, which is here. So what we are doing is I am collapsing these into nodes, and this is going to be for Apple, and this is to keep this part of the graph tidier and easier to use. So in Apple, I'm going to add the reference to the pick item, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it into here, and then I'm going to say to string, which is enum to string, and then from a string to a name. Okay, and now you don't have to type in the name or set the enum type. All you need to set is the icon, which we don't have any icons in this one, do we? Apple. No, we do not. That's fine. Like you say, you'll have your own icons. If you want, you can get that plugin, the light thumbnail plugin. I'll put a link in the description. And what it can do is it can take a screenshot of you zoomed in on a static mesh or something like that, and then you can create an icon right here in the editor. Save you having to go into Photoshop and fuck on for hours, which is the way I used to do it. I'll leave a link in the description for that if you want. That's how I have the icons on my other one. So all you have is this little tab here. You'd create your, static mesh, apple, fruit. That'll come in, and you just literally get the right angle if you can get it right, and then capture image. And that's all you need to do. This plugin's free. The free version anyway, the light, is on the marketplace. Okay, just for if you were interested. So that's what we have in here. We then collapse out of that, and we will comment, type food, and then we can open up the food category, put this up here, and then of course collapse your watermelon. Type in watermelon, put that into food next to it, and of course you will want to copy and paste. You get your string, your enum type, slot type. Yes, you will need to set that, I believe, now, because we have a loot spawner. Well, not a loot spawner, but we have some way of spawning loot. So let's just check what I did. Well, I did nothing in there. Nothing in there. Oh, maybe I didn't. Slot type. Yes, I have. So we want to promote this to a variable of promote a variable, and this is going to be slot type, which you will need to do. Okay, so now if you come back to your apple, slot type, and then so it's as easy as adding an item. So if I was to drag this off here, and so medkit, all you would need to do is duplicate, call med kit, connect it up, comment, I don't know, health, and have a health category like so. Put this over here. You could have another comment, how do you see, is it? And then you could call this weapons. Okay, and and then you drag off and add the weapons, and you just copy and paste. Okay, so watermelon, that is done. Apple, that is done. Slot type, and I think that's all we've got changed in here, nothing else. And obviously the simulate physics, you can have that on or off if you want. And we are done in here. Okay, so I can do a quick demonstration if you want how to add an item. So if you go to your enum, now remember, save and then play. Don't compile anything, let the editor do that for you. So let's go item type, and then go new, and let's add a stone axe, for example. It's a weapon. Hit save, close it, hit play, and it'll compile it all. Okay, and then you can hit a save all, and that's how you add the item without getting the stupid errors and need to refresh stuff. And now you can go to your BP Master pickup construction. You will have your next tab, so you would go grab the watermelon, duplicate, rename stone axe, connect it up, put it into your category like so. And obviously remember, you will need to open this up. These bits will be done for you, but you will need to change your icon. And then does it stack? Probably no. Max stack 1. Reusable amounts, blah blah blah. Put a description. That's up to you what you want to do. So yeah, done. Moving on. So the BP master structure. Now The way I've done this is a little bit different now. So I'll get mine up. BP master structure. And what I've done is I've deleted the inventory component because I want to dynamically add what we want it to be. So this can now be anything: wall, foundation, tree, storage box, crafting table, anvil, fucking door. It doesn't matter. Just we'll set it dynamically, but this will now run everything. Okay, so let's go with begin play. Now then, don't worry about the errors, we will sort that in a minute. So on begin play, we want to know boolean add inventory. Okay, expose this, expose it and put it in inventory, just inventory for the category, capital I. Right, so if this is true, we want to add inventory component. Now then, there's going to be a couple of things that we need to do in the inventory component. We do need to change a couple of things. Nothing major, just set the variables to exposed on spawn. So let's come over to the inventory component. And the variables that we can now change is, let's see, so move my camera out of the way a little bit. So we need the widget class to be exposed. So obviously make it instant editable first. You can't just do that. You will need the slot type exposed. You will need the boolean show tooltips. That's already exposed. The weight and limit slot. So that's it really. It was just them two. Okay then. Save. We're now done in here. Okay, now we're sucking diesel, which is a term for doing really well in England. Okay, it's not a fucking, not actually drinking diesel, it's a cup of tea. Right, hydrate and code. So, widget class, promote this to a variable and call it widget class. Slot type, obviously this will want to be exposed. I'm assuming master structure. Yeah, these are all exposed, aren't they? So put this in the inventory, and the slot type, drag off, promote a variable, and this will also need to be in the inventory, and you want to expose these. Slot type, expose that. Hit compile, still not there yet. Amount of slots, that can be dragged off, that's already in there. You can put that in inventory as well, and obviously limited slots, promote that to a variable and put that into inventory and expose that on spawn. So we'll start to get something looking like this. Weight, we haven't really done the weight yet, but because we haven't done much on the player, so for now just leave that unchecked. Show tooltips, you could probably just leave that ticked all the time, to be honest, if you wanted it. If you don't want it, turn it off. Okay, so now then, now that we've added it, we need to promote it to a variable. So otherwise it doesn't have it up here because it's dynamic. So you actually need to promote it to a variable and call it inventory component. Okay, now what I've done to help everyone with the errors, so if you come into another branch and if you come off of here, reroute, double click. If you want to know how I'm typing that so fast, I type RER and hit enter, which is enough to give you a reroute node. Okay, it used to be RE, but for some reason it turned it, you had to go RER. Okay, so this variable is going to be add crafting. Fucking hell, promote a variable. Add crafting. Okay, so this is recording, isn't it? Yes, thank God for that. I fucked up. So, if crafting is true, you want to double check that add inventory is true. Okay. So, if this is false, you then want to print string, and my print string is, this is just errors, so this is optional. So all I've got is a reference to self, get my display name, and this is a pen node, and I've added error, can't add this, the solution would be to tick this box, blah blah blah. This is optional. You can pause the video if you want to do that as well. Okay, it's an error check, that's all this is. Now then, if add inventory is add crafting, so is if add crafting is true and this is true, you then want to add crafting component, give yourself a bit of space. Now obviously, because this check is done, you will have a reference to inventory, because like I say, if you've ticked add crafting but not ticked this box, you'll get an error. So that's why this double checks to see if there's an error. And we are now in array of recipes. Let's see what I've got here. So yeah, so array of recipes, you want to promote to a variable, and you can just hit enter, exposed, and put this into the category crafting, like that. And the craft type is sorry, and promote this to a variable, and you can expose this on spawn, compile, save. We're still got an error, don't worry about that at the minute. And then of course you want to promote this to a variable, and this is the crafting component. Okay, next. Oh, of course, you will now want to call that event. So now you call initiate or init. Okay, so this is the begin play of the crafting. Okay, because now it has the reference. Okay, so now you can call the begin play of that. And now we have another check. This is another branch here. So if, and we want to now do a spawn, promote to a variable, and call this spawn random loot. Expose this, and if this is true, double check you've got an inventory, and of course you just want to print your string. Obviously this is optional. I'm just copying and pasting it from my other project because I'm not typing all that out. I'm sure you can not figure that out. And obviously my duration set to 1,000 seconds just so you can read it. It doesn't fucking disappear. Now if they are both true, because you don't need to go any further than this, the only bypass I have is add crafting. If this is false but you want to spawn loot, you want to reroute past the crafting to here and connect this up in here. Okay, and you could probably I have on my other one, You probably could reroute that into there. So if this is add crafting is true, but this is false, you've got an error. Yeah, you probably wouldn't. I would say leave that off. If you've got an error, deal with the error, because this would bypass the error and still work to spawn the loot. So I would not reconnect that up. I would leave that like that. So now then, to spawn loot, we want to add a variable, and this is going to be amount of loot items to spawn, and this is going to be an integer. You could make two variables, a minimum and a maximum, and then you could get a random, or you could say up to. This is totally up to you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to expose that on spawn, and then we're going to do a for loop. Okay, and this you want to minus one of, obviously, because this, if you put 5, it'll do 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it'll give you 6. So you could either do that, or, you know what I mean, it's up to you. So anyway, we want to now spawn actor from class, and the class is going to be a master pickup, and obviously we want to spawn it off the map or a million miles in the air. The item you want to spawn can be set as it is, or you can do what I'm going to do now and make a set and then make that into an array and then get a random. So to do that, you need to promote this type to a variable and call this set of items. Okay, disconnect, sorry. Now up here, you know this one and you know array. Well, this is a set, okay? You might not have used this before, but all this is, change variable, it makes a set of items. It's all it is what it says it is. So if you now compile this, you can now add elements to the set. So it's going to say none. Well, you can add the apple, and then add another one, watermelon, and then add another one, medkit. Okay, so now from this set, you can say to array. Okay, plug that in, and then from here, you can go random item array. Okay, and this will pump out the item and the index. You won't need the index, you just need the item, and that can be pumped into there. And then of course what you want to do with this item is you want to add it to the inventory of said item. So this you just want to call pickup, and then from here you can get array or get item info, because the construction script will set the information for you, and then this item info goes into here. Connect this up, and then if this was successful, you will want to destroy this item because that's done its job, and hit that into true. Reroute, keep it tidy, like so. And then obviously if this fails, you want to print string here, and this is just type in failed to add loot or whatever, check BP master blah blah blah. If you want, like I said, they're all optional. If you follow along and everything's perfect, you won't see an error, you won't see a print string. Okay, so that is that bit done. Construction script, there's nothing in there. We have an error. Right, so yes, you can now delete that. You don't need that. Compile, save, and that is now done. So just delete these two. And now if you dragged in a master structure, you should have something on the right hand side. I'll move my camera out the way because that'll be in your way here. So on the right hand side now, you have the name, which is from the last episode, so you can name the item or the box or give it a name. You can say what type you want to do this, and obviously you can spawn this dynamic when we do the building system, alright, which is going to be series 3. So spawn random loot, yes or no, which is in the default. We could probably move that from spawn random loot to inventory, add crafting. You could probably put that in default, which it already is in default actually. Amount of items to spawn. Something like that. Like I said, you can play it. That's just how it looks over here. That can be what you want. You don't have to put them in categories, but it just looks good, doesn't it? And it's easier to use. So you would then set amount of slots, add inventory, amount of slots, select the widget, what type it is, you know. So by default you'd want that to be a storage slot because it's not a player, or crafting or an NPC or whatever. Limited slots, you will need that ticked if you have this. And spawn random loot, obviously the random loot amount, you could have 3 random items, or you could set this up so up to 3, you know, so you can get a random number in range. So if you wanted to, you could come to the event graph, and where you are spawning here, you could get random number in range, right? You could use this node. You could put this as the maximum, and maybe put that as, you could leave 1 if you definitely want loot, or leave it at 0 if there's a chance that there's no loot, which is probably a bit naughty to the player of the game. I'd never be that mean, where sometimes you get nothing. So that is up to you. Obviously we'll pump it in here. What else have we got? So that's done. This is all the items. Like I said, we'll want a new widget. So let's actually see. We haven't done the widget yet, have we? So we'll do that next. Graphical BP player. This is now going to have changed. So not in here, in the PC player. So now we'll come back to here. So if you come to your PC player, the current looking at storage box will now have a get crafting component. Now this isn't always going to be valid, so you need to come along here and say, is this valid? If this is valid, you will want to do a couple of things. Let me put my face back over here. Let me jump over to my PC player on here. There's only a couple of things to do. Yeah, so if this is valid, bang a reroute node here, and then drag off and call update, and you want to use the function update slots, alright, not the interface one. Use the function. Excuse me. On begin play, there's a little bit to do up there. So after you've done your creating of the HUD, you then want to add a crafting component to yourself, because you can craft by hand. So by default you can craft. So then you can bring this default in and then go is valid. Don't need to, but just it's good practice. Stop silly errors. And then you want to set the inventory component, this one, no, set the inventory component, this one, okay, so the inventory component of the crafting component to your own inventory, okay, and then you will want to tell that to init as well, which is start running. And is that everything you need to do in here? I think so. That is all looking good. There's no extra graphs, there's no functions. Check to see over inventories. That hasn't changed. The only thing that has changed is when you open your inventory here, you want to move the check and close over ones and get your crafting component and update the craft slots here as well. So every time you open your inventory, it'll update your slots for you, okay? That looks good now. So let's see widgets now, I think, because these are all done now, aren't they? That's brilliant. So we're nearly there. So let's go to assets, nothing changed in them, widgets. So in the inventory widget, what I have done is I very quickly added a inventory slots. So I'll get mine up so I can do it quickly, and then you can follow along. Inventory widget. So what I have got now is canvas panel, size box, border, vertical box, horizontal box. So what I have done in this vertical box, I've added a horizontal box, okay, and that's gone to the bottom. We want this up here, okay. I have put in here a button, okay. I've put this text into this button, and then I've renamed this button inventory tab, okay. And then I have duplicated that, renamed this crafting tab, and then if you put this to fill, no, not that one, yes, so put this one to fill and then smash it onto the right hand side there, and this one to fill and then put that on that side. Alright, so you've got something that looks like this, crafting. Alright, and then this scroll box, let's see, so we have now put in a widget switcher onto the vertical box, okay, and then we've put this size box into that widget switcher. So this is an inventory slots. So this scroll box, is that of importance? Inventory box, yes. So I have renamed this to inventory box, and I have duplicated that and made this the crafting box, and then this and this need to be variables. Hit compile, and now if you are they'll obviously look the same, but if you want you could go to your inventory slots, actually rename that as well to crafting slots, just so you can see what's going on here. And then what we'll do is we'll just take a few out of here, delete them, so it will look something like that. So you can see me switching between them. Now of course we want to do that dynamically with the buttons, So let's hit over to our event graph. Yes, there's actually a few bits to do in here. Let's do the interfaces, get them out of the way. So we've got event, generate slots, event, update slots, and then of course we have now the update, implement event, update the crafting slots, and of course you just want to do a for each loop, and you want to look at my old one so I can remember what I have done. Update slots, buttons. Yeah, so basically I've basically just done another one of these and made a new variable. So we need to do the generate slots first. So let's generate the craft slots. Right click, implement event, and you want to do a, let me look, do a for each loop from here, not with a break, and connect this up. You've got to clear children in a second. So you want to craft slots, an array, craft recipes. So we want to get our slots, duplicate that, rename, sorry, and you want this to be craft slots, and you need to change this to a widget craft, which we have not done. So if you come back into your widgets and just duplicate the drag visual, probably be the best one, and this is a widget craft slot. Okay, so you will need another slot for this component. You cannot use the inventory slot here. You might be able to, in fact, I'm not even going to talk about it. Let's have a look at the craft slot. Image, text, amount. Don't really need that, do you? You just need an image and a name. Yes, get rid of the amount. Get rid of that. And you will want update. Yep, let's have a look. Actually, there's fucking loads to do, yeah. Well, there's not loads to do, but this, yes, of course. Right, what's the time on the video? I think we could possibly do this. If we go to an hour, we can do this. Right, so on the event graph, fuck that off. You don't want that. What you want is to override mouse enter, override mouse leave, and I need to hydrate. Right, so on mouse enter, you need to create a widget, which I bet we haven't made either. Yes, so we need to make this widget as well. Fuck me. So this is a hover over tooltip crafting. Okay, just hit save. We will sort that in a minute. So crafting. This will need the item info, which you need to change this to craft item info, because we are in the crafting slot now. So this needs to be a craft recipe. Hit compile. And now this needs to be a, let's jump into here, change a few things in here. Yeah, there's definitely a few things to change. So there was actually, I've just realized there was a slightly better way to do this. What we'll do is we'll get it set up, and then if I do an update, I'll do an update. So item info needs to be a craft recipe. Okay, just disconnect that for now because this will need changing. We will need the inventory component reference to that, and we need to expose it. We need to duplicate that, and we need the crafting component for this as well. That needs to be exposed on spawn, right? So we've got them. We can now come back to the craft slot, refresh this node, plug in our item. So the craft slot, so on generate, I'm assuming you've got, yeah, so we need the variables for them as well in here. So inventory component, and that is the inventory component. Expose that, duplicate it, rename it to the crafting component, and obviously we need to use the crafting component there. Did I change that variable on the hover over? No, I didn't. So make sure you change that to a crafting component as well. So these can now be plugged in. Refresh. Okay, hit compile, save, and then obviously you want to promote that to a variable called tooltip, and then set as tooltip, and of course you want this to be in here, or you could do that, to be honest, that looks tidier. Okay, now on event mouse leave, very straightforward. Get the tooltip is valid, obviously, to avoid any silly errors, and then if it is valid, drag off of here and remove from parent like that. You can put a reroute node in there if you want that to look nice and tidy or whatever. And now we need to on mouse button down. Yes, there's quite a lot in here. Okay, let's just keep going. Function, you're going to need to update. Sorry, we was doing mouse button down, weren't we? On mouse button down, drag off of here, call handled. Okay. You are going to want to go is mouse button right mouse button. You can use whatever you want. I just chose right mouse button. Okay, if that is true, do a branch, and you need to promote to variable craftable question mark. So is it craftable, which we'll set soon. And then if it is craftable, you want to create widget, which is another one that we haven't made. There's quite a lot here actually. So this widget is a user interface. There's nothing we can copy this off. This is the widget underscore craft options that's not spelled right. Craft options or crafter or whatever. We will do that in a minute. We can just set this now to craft options, and that will want some stuff. So let's actually put that in to the craft options in here. Yeah, choosers. You will want some variables. Let's get these in. So the exposed ones, well, let's do them all. You're going to need a mount, which is an integer. You're going to need a max craft amount, which is going to need to be exposed, and you are going to need a craft item info, and that is going to be a craft recipe. The rest we'll do later, or possibly in the next episode for that one. Now you can refresh, and craft slot. Let me get back onto my craft slot, which is a craft recipe, I've called it. This is a craft slot on this graph. That's fine though. And crafting component, sorry, I have missed one. You will also need a crafting component variable. Expose it. Okay, now we are back in here, so we can refresh this once more. The crafting component is here, the item is here, and the max craft amount needs to be promoted to a variable, and this is the max crafting amount. Typed it in forward, brilliant. And then add to viewport false. You need to return handled, and that is it for on mouse button down. So you can compile now. Okay, so update, which is the event we've made here, function, sorry. Now then, this is going to get a bit big, this one. Yes, this is fucking massive, this graph. Basically, this graph needs to find out what items are in its inventory, and if it needs to set itself is craftable or not, and it needs to do that 5 times for the 5 different items and all of the structures. So this is quite deep, but we will do it, and then we might have to go into the second video to finish this off. Alright, so parameters, new parameters. I've got 2 parameters. I have got the craft recipe coming in, and I have got the inventory coming in, and this is the craft info, and this is the inventory that it's in. Okay, so compile this. There's no output. Now I have set this to a local variable and a proper variable for some reason. So we'll not use the local variable, we'll use the proper variable, because that is obviously being used elsewhere, which is the on mouse button down, isn't it? Okay, because that needs that information. Right, that's fine. So what we'll do is we will set this, so every time this calls update, it now knows which inventory it's working out of. So that can just do that. It doesn't need to be a local one, okay? And then the craft item info needs to be set as well, and I cannot live with it. Need to be in this order. Okay, there. Right, so first of all, we need to get our craft item info, break it. And obviously the easiest thing first is the image, which I can't live with that. So that's going to have to be icon. So the icon, and you want to set texture, Mr. T, there it is, to this icon. Okay, so that's nice and easy. Set the name. And of course you just want to set text for this. And this is the name. You need to go to string. The enum to string. This won't do that for you. You have to do this bit and then it'll do that for you. Okay, that's why I'm doing that. You can't just drag in. Okay, so that's the two easy bits out the way. Now then, requirement equal to none. If true, we have an error. So we will print string here. And you want to put in here, you have not set your or any requirements for this recipe, something like that. Okay, so now I'm running into a macro, which is obviously a graph, a big graph. Alright, well, it's not too bad. I probably don't need to put that in a macro, to be honest. We have a function and then a branch. Yes, that's a pointless macro. So we need the function, and this function is requirement check. So let's come up here and then add a function, and this function is called requirement check, and this is crafting component, get amount of items by enum, get amount of items by enum. So that is in our crafting component. So in here we're going to get amount of items by enum. Okay, the inventory to search and the name we are searching for, and then we can return with a branch and an amount. So if we have more than or equals the amount we are searching for, which is rename this to amount needed. Okay, we success. And I've also put in here, if you take this amount and divide it, which is a / by this amount, you will get a value of how many times you can make that item. So for an example, if you have 20 apples and it costs you 5 apples to make a bag of apples, then this would print out 4. So you can have 4 lots. So you have 4 times the amount of that item requirement. Alright? It will make sense soon. So we have times x, or x times, alright? Or something like that. So we can come out of requirement check, and we're now into this macro. I'm just checking because I've done this in a stupid way. So not the code and just the layout in there. I've put one function inside of a macro trying to tidy this up. So basically if this is true, so what do we need? We need the requirement. So let's try and keep all this bunch together. So we need the requirement, we need the inventory that we're working from, and we need the amount here. Okay, this is good. This is why this is Spaghetti City, this one. Okay, I'll try and make everything look tidy until you've got the gist of it. Okay, so this is what we're doing. And then what we are doing here, the craftable amount, and you will need 5 of these, so 1 for each. So you're going to promote this to a local variable. Local? Oh, no. Is this local or is this a hard? Yes, this is the hard variable. Okay, so promote this to a variable, and this is going to be crafting. You want craftable amount requirement R1. Okay, so if this is true, set it. If this is false, which means you don't have enough to craft it, set it to 0. And then we're going to repeat this a few times. And all of that could probably go in a macro. I would have thought so. So what we'll do is yes, let's grab this and collapse that to a macro, and we'll call this requirement 1. Okay, open the macro up because you need a output, compile, and then this should look a lot tidier than my old one. Now the second one's slightly different, but not too bad. So we're going to duplicate, and of course you could probably put this one here, try and keep it tidier. You need your 2 amounts, so you want R1 and R1 amount. So let's just do this now. So this is going to be R1 item, and then R1 item amount. Okay, and now you can not duplicate like that. You need to duplicate it from here. Okay, because you need to put this to number 2. And this is why, because you now need another variable for here. So you want to duplicate the craftable amount and make that craftable amount R2, shift drag on top of these, and it will change that for you. Now we need to do instead of printing this value now, because we have had a requirement, because some items will only require one thing to craft into another thing. So if you want to split a log into sticks, you'll only need 1 log and it'll give you 5 sticks, for example. So this is actually coming out successful. So to do this, you need to do a couple of functions. So the first function, let me just zoom up on here. So the first function is item craftable. Okay, and this function is straightforward, but obviously you've got to do 5 of them. So you're going to ask, essentially, you're going to get the first one. you're going to say is more than or equals to, no, you're not. You're going to say equals 0. Okay. So what's going on here is if this is equal to 0, you're going to set craftable to false. Okay. You're then going to basically do this 5 times from the, if that's not equal to 0, it is craftable, which we'll set at the end. Yes, that's fine. So you don't have to set craftable in here, because what I have done is I've set the default value to 1. Okay. So set the default value of these to 1. Hit compile, and obviously you'll need to change that to here. What the fuck? Drag out this, please. Thank you. Don't mess me around. And then obviously we'll do this 5 times when we've got the 5 variables, and then at the very end we'll set it to true. Okay, so we've now got 2. So what we'll do is we'll get rid of that for a second. We'll do it 2 more times, and I've missed. That'll come into there, and then we'll do it 1 more time for the 5th one. And then we'll set this down here to craftable. And then we need to change these variables. So let's duplicate R3, duplicate R4, duplicate, and I'm pressing Control W to do that. And then we can drop this into here, this one into here, and this one into here. Compile, make sure all the default values are at 1. And we can now come back to update. And we're in requirement 2. And we are coming off the true. So you want to now go, is item craftable? And now I'm going to come out of here. Okay. Then I have got find out max crafting amount. So we need a new function, and this is going to be find out max craftable amount. We'll do that in a second. We're going to get this in here, and then set craftable text color. Okay, so let's rename that properly. There's no M in there. And then we'll duplicate or plus function, and this is going to be set craftable text color, and that's how we spell it where I live. Well, for you. Okay. In here it's really straightforward. You just get the craftable if, and we're going to basically get the icon, and we're going to set color and opacity. I remember when I built my first ever big game, which failed, so it was shit, and I made a widget for every single item in it, and everyone had a button. God, I remember it. And now you can just do it all dynamically. Honestly, crazy. So we're now setting the craftable text color, and we need to find out the craftable amount. So let's do that. Okay, this is a bit of spaghetti. So you want to basically get your first one, R1, is that equal to 0? If that is true, because it's by default 1, so it'll be set to 0 if you haven't got the stuff. Okay, if that is true, return, what is it? It's RET enter for a return quickly. If that is not, you want to set the max crafting amount. Even if it's still 1, it'll stay at 1. If it's more than 1, it'll reset the mount, right? And then you are going to break here of your recipes, and you're going to get requirement 2, and you need to check, is this equals to none? So because what happened when I was making this was I ran this, and then I ran this 5 times, changing each one of them. And what was happening, because there was no requirement for 2, 3, 4, or 5, it was saying you can't craft it because you could only craft 1, even though I could craft 10 apple bags. But because of the other numbers, it got confused. So you need to check to see if any other requirements are valid. So if they're not equal to none, if they are equal, you don't do anything. You can just return there if you want. You probably should. You can just return. If, however, this variable is not equal to none and it is being used, you then need to get your craftable amount 2, and you need to know, is this craftable amount less than your current max crafting amount, which has been set here? And then if so, if this is less than it, then you need to reset your crafting amount to this one. Alright? And what's happening there is, if, say you can craft 10, because you've got thousands of apples, so you can craft hundreds and hundreds of bags of apples, but you've only got 1 watermelon, and you need 1 watermelon and 10 apples, you can only craft 1, because you've only got enough of requirement 2 for 1 batch. Okay, and then you will go down the line. Okay, so is and then of course you need to requirement 3, is that equal to none? If it's not, repeat this. So what you could do is, you could probably put this into macros if you want, but for now I'll just type it. And then if this is true, you basically want to run this again and change this number. And then of course if this is, if this is false, you're coming off of there. No, so sorry, if this is false, then run into here. If it's true, return, because you're done. And then of course what we should be doing is copy and pasting all of that, drag from the false into this item, get requirement 3, requirement 4, and change this one to requirement 4. And then of course duplicate that again, and like I said, put this into macros, tidy this graph up, but you get the gist of it. Okay, now if that is false on the very end, you will return here. So you want to return now and now. Okay, and that's what that would look like. Like I said, you can put that into macros, but all we're doing is we're checking. Obviously the first one you don't need to check. The second one you do. Is it a valid requirement? If it is, check the max amount. If it's not, run forward. Okay, so back to update. Inside of here, we've said, is it craftable? obviously this needs to be first, because if you put, you need to know if it's craftable, and then how many before you set this color. You can't set the color here because it doesn't know if it's craftable yet, because it's asking this. So you need to set that right before you do that one, and then this one could possibly go at the end, but just do it in that order, because that order does actually fucking make a difference. So in requirement 1, there R1, R1, so that's where they're being set. In requirement 2, they're being set there. That's being done. That doesn't need doing. That's there because requirement 1 is none, so that's an error. And now you can just drag off of here and here, and that says R1, R1, but it isn't. It's just the name of it. So you can go, let's just take out that and just go item type and item amount like that. Hit compile, save, come out of it, and now you can duplicate. Where is it? Here, duplicate, change it to 3. Remember to change your variables to this one, like so. Nothing else changes. Obviously you need to drag it out, run into here, requirement 3 and the requirement 3 amount, duplicate again to number 4. Remember to change your variables to number 4, and again last time, duplicate, change the name like so, run the variables, change the variables. Are we definitely sure? I think we are. Compile it. So that is the end of update. Let's see. Mine looks a lot messier, but I think I've done it much better that way. Of course, you need to continue the run. Getting ahead of myself there. And requirement 5. Connect them up. Yep. Let's just check our events. We've got update, requirement check, is it craftable? Yes, find out, yes. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, and that's the mouse on, mouse button down, which is done. So it's quite a lot. Let's check the time. Ooh, okay, so we have definitely gone over an hour. So what we'll do is I'll cut the video in just a second, and we are very close to being done. We just got a couple of widgets to finish, and yeah, that will be the crafting system. So let's just test, see where we are up to, what's working. So we haven't actually got a craftable widget yet. Yes, what we'll do is we'll cut there. I'll go into a new video because obviously it takes ages to render and stuff like that. So, and I want to get them out to you. But we will be finishing this. I'll do so. All 3 of these episodes will be up today. So that will be the full system complete. Definitely get it done in the next episode. But alright, so don't forget, please subscribe so you don't miss any videos. Like the video if you liked it, and of course if you've got any requests of what you wanted to do, you can either join the Patreon or leave a comment down below. I'll put all the links I've said today, so the Patreon link, so we can just download the full project ready, done to use, and I'll also put a link for the thumbnail icon snapper. Alright, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.